Good evening, and welcome to another episode of the WVU Alumni Webinar Series. Tonight, we'll be joined by three key WVU leaders and researchers from the Center for Excellence in STEM Education. In our conversation, we'll find out more about their unique and interactive programs that are geared towards increasing access to high-quality STEM education around the state of West Virginia. Our first guest, Dr. Gay Stewart, serves as the director for the center. Her central role in the physics education community ensures that any findings transferable to physics are known and discussed at a national level. Dr. Stewart's primary research area has been improving physics education for college students, STEM majors, and future K-12 instructors. She's the former president of the American Association of Physics Teachers, a member of the board of directors of the American Physical Society, and a leader of the College Board's redesign of AP Physics Sequence. Our next guest, Dr. Matthew Campbell, is an assistant professor of mathematics education in the Department of Curriculum and Instruction and Literacy Studies here at WVU. His research is focused on the area of teacher education, with specific attention to the preparation and professional education of secondary mathematics teachers. Prior to coming to WVU, Dr. Campbell attended North Carolina State University for his bachelor's and master's degrees before receiving a PhD from Oregon State University. Our last guest is Dr. John Stewart. Dr. Stewart's work attempts to both further understanding about how physics classes produce understanding and how physics departments and universities can work more effectively to serve and retain all students. He was selected as an APS Fellow in 2016 for his work on teacher preparation and departmental transformation. Dr. Stewart received his PhD from the University of Illinois in 1994 for work in condensed matter theory, and his primary research interest is understanding physics class functioning, how that function can be improved, the retention of STEM majors, and the description of the knowledge state of physics students. Together, these three engage in critical work with the WVU Center for Excellence in STEM Education, and we are so excited to hear more about the work that they do tonight. Hello, everyone. Welcome.
Hi, Meredith.
Hi, Meredith.
Hello. Thank you so much for joining us tonight. We are very excited to dive into the Center for Excellence in STEM Education, and I know that you are all very excited to talk about the many projects that you have and some of the things that you have in development. So for those who aren't familiar with the center and its impact, could you start by giving us a brief overview of the center and kind of its mission and goals?
Okay, so STEM, that's science, technology, engineering, and mathematics, are fields that are among the fastest growing employment sectors and with the most rapidly increasing wages. Even jobs we don't tend to think of as STEM are drawing these days on STEM skills. And we feel that every child in West Virginia deserves the opportunity to study with a well-prepared math or science teachers who have the tools to educate every student so these potential careers are open if they so choose. So the center, basically we work to build connections between faculty on campus and between institutions and organizations in the state that help us all take our work to the next level. We try to build that work on high quality research that increases our ability to improve educational outcomes. So many times changes in education seem to just, it sounds good, but we want to make sure we know we're doing something that's going to help. With faculty working together from across the university in this transdisciplinary effort, the center aspires to make WVU a national model of a high quality STEM education. We want to encourage more students to start and retain those students in courses of study that will lead to these high-paying careers. My two colleagues here are excellent examples of faculty doing this kind of work. As we seek to improve STEM education, not just at WVU and other institutions of higher education in the state, but K-12, we realize that preparing high-quality high school math and science teachers is absolutely vital. Working with them throughout their early careers is crucial to help launch them to be successful. But a further priority is providing rich professional development opportunities for the teachers who are already out there trying to do great jobs with our children. So basically, one more thing, we have these three goals, and they're kind of broad, they're kind of big. We want to increase the number of students and professionals in STEM in West Virginia. We'd like to increase the STEM proficiency for all students in West Virginia and at WVU, whether or not they see themselves as STEM people. And we really want to provide a national model of a state land-grant university supporting STEM education and therefore economic growth for its state.
Thank you for that overview. And you led right into a question that I seem to be asking quite a number of our guests recently, and something that's very important to us in the work that we do. The land grant mission of WVU is critical in our connection to our state and to our citizens. So I'd love to know how you see and interpret the work of the center as a kind of a function of WVU's own land grant mission.
Right. Well, I mean, that land grant mission is really to create a diverse and inclusive culture that advances education, healthcare, and prosperity, for all our population in the state, and by providing access and opportunity, advancing high-impact research, and leading transformation in West Virginia and the world through local, state, and global engagement. And, we created the Center for Excellence in STEM Education to help achieve this mission. Specifically, we're seeking to break the cycle of poverty in West Virginia through improving the quality of and the access to education in the STEM disciplines from kindergarten through college. And not only does that impact, economic factors, but improved educational opportunities have been shown to directly correlate with improved health as well. So, it's one of the reasons I was excited to come to West Virginia, was their commitment to this land grant mission.
Absolutely. Well, thank you for that. And, as we talk about some of these programs that are associated with the center, I think we will learn more about how you bring that to life. So I'd love to talk about Code West Virginia. And so from my understanding, the goal is to familiarize K-12 students in West Virginia with computer science and kind of equip them with some very specific skills that they'll then continue to build upon throughout their lives. So tell us about this program.
Okay. And let me preface this. I am a physicist, right? And, I see it as great preparation for many college pathways. And, we did set out, we have actually helped improve the percentage of students in West Virginia who have access to physics in high school. Then I started looking at the statistics about computer science and careers. Right now, a high school graduate with the right coursework in computer science can get a job. They don't need to go to college. In West Virginia, there are currently over 1,000 open computer science jobs, and less than 200 computer science graduates. And those computing jobs have an average salary of over $75,000, where the average salary overall in West Virginia is more like $45,000. So it's kind of important to open that door, I think. And so we went looking for resources to impact computer science education in West Virginia. There's a nonprofit organization called Code.org, which is very committed to access and equity. And so we applied, and they selected us to be their regional partner in West Virginia. Through this partnership, we created Code West Virginia to support increased accessibility of computer science to students in K-12 public schools across the state, in part by offering professional development for educators. And then the West Virginia Department of Education was also trying to get computer science going. They joined the partnership with us. And so we've worked with them through a series of committees and efforts to enhance the state's computer science learning standards and define the requirements for computer science teaching certification. Then the Senate jumped on, so we got a Senate Bill 267, which actually charged the Department of Education with creating a plan to reach all West Virginia students with computer science. And this new law makes West Virginia one of the first states to require all students to start their computer science in elementary and be exposed to a variety of computer science experiences that are grade appropriate throughout their K-12 career.
Wow. So, outside of the bill, when you talk about bringing computer science into the classroom, what does that actually entail, and what are some of the barriers to overcome in the process of doing that?
Right, because the thing to keep in mind is even before this bill was enacted, schools were already supposed to be teaching computer science. It's been in the standards. The new standards are out. The bill doesn't require it the bill requires it in this formal way in 2022, but the standards are already there. So the biggest barrier really has been the lack of educators that are prepared to teach computer science. If you think about it, most elementary teachers probably didn't get a course in how to teach computer science before we sent them out there. And so a lot of them, they aren't prepared, and there's a lot of fear about trying this because, it sounds scary. And so that's one of the reasons we were so excited about partnering with code.org, and also Apple has now joined our partnership. By providing professional development opportunities to make this possible. So as part of the state's credentialing process, teachers can go through our professional development. We give them everything they need to be ready to teach a course in computer science. And we give them some really high quality curriculum and some infrastructure to help them use it with their students, and support throughout the year while they're trying to do this. And we really stress to them that the role is to be the lead learner in the classroom. We don't expect you to become an expert computer scientist in, a year, but you can learn with your students and get them excited and help them learn and help them see that they belong in that classroom. So that's been our goal. And since 2018, we've worked with 52 of West Virginia's 55 counties. We've worked with 587 elementary teachers from 197 schools, 141 middle school teachers, and 88 high school teachers. And now 3/4 of our high schools offer an AP computer science course. So we're on track to meet the 2022 everybody, and we're looking to enrich it and offer even, more content.
That's really impressive.
Oh, and we're actively recruiting for the 2021 cohort. So anybody that knows the teacher, let them know. It is totally free and very, we want to take care of you. We think you're special.
Well, we will absolutely pass that along to our networks. And I have one more question about Code West Virginia. What do you see some of the long-term impacts of this program to be in the state?
Yeah, well, we're truly hoping to provide access to these high-paying careers for a lot of our young folk who right now don't necessarily see these opportunities. There are good-paying jobs in the state. Something that this last year has taught us is that telework is also an option, and there are things you can do with a little bit of computer science even more easily, so you can stay in West Virginia and still have that good paycheck. The other kind of sneaky thing is that it turns out that learning computer science, particularly among elementary students, seems to have a very positive impact on their learning overall, which sort of makes sense because you've got to think about, to talk to a computer or even to think computationally before you're coding, that's only a little part of it, but you have to become very careful in your communication. You have to think about how you structure a problem to try to solve it, which are things that carry over into learning how to read and learning math. And so, we're hoping to see more kids pursuing more education and doing better in it. That just is going to make things better.
Well, I really hope so. I'm excited to see the growth in that program. Matthew, I want to introduce our audience to the M3T program tonight. And so I know that your work involves supporting our secondary math teachers to build overall kind of a stronger talent pipeline of math and STEM professionals. But we would love to hear from you more about that program and how you are helping teachers throughout the state in your work.
Yeah, absolutely. So M3T stands for Mountaineer Mathematics Master Teachers. And to kind of most directly answer the question, it's the part of the system that we're addressing is the support of practicing middle and high school math teachers, not just through their own professional development, but to support them professionally in ways that have them stay and advance in their career and lead improvement efforts in their local context as well as across the state. And so there would, of course, be the idea that what that helps do is improve math education for our students with the kinds of outcomes that we would expect that Gay was referring to as well. Where the M3T project starts, and really it is a sign of the way that WVU and the STEM Center has been a hub for partnership both across the university and out across the state. M3T started by building on work that was done in Pocahontas County. A WVU alum, Joanna Burt-Kinderman, was an instructional coach in mathematics in Pocahontas County, and work that she was doing, working with teachers with sort of a new way of doing business, as she would call it, in terms of how do we support teachers, how do we improve collectively, and how do we do so in a way that really gives teachers more voice in the problems that they're facing and the ways in which they solve it. She has been well recognized for this work, and appropriately so, but it's through her collaboration with Gay and with the STEM Center around some other initiatives that started to give rise to, well, how can we leverage this idea that was happening in a local context? I got brought on board. I have my own kind of experiences thinking about things like teacher leadership and teacher collaboration. And we together proposed a capacity building grant to the National Science Foundation's Noyce Teacher Scholarship Program for a small grant to start to explore this idea here in West Virginia. So in 2018, we had a project and we engaged 3/4 of the counties across the state to think about math teacher leadership. We then were lucky to have support from the Benedum Foundation for a pilot project where we supported teacher leaders in 6 counties across the state. And then this past year, right before everything turned sideways, we got word of funding again from the National Science Foundation's Noyce program for a full 6-year, $3 million teacher leadership project. Where we are building a network across West Virginia of math teacher leaders who, in developing their own skills, both as teachers and teacher leaders, will also be a critical part of leading improvement efforts across the state. And what we're doing as a network is attacking the problem of why there aren't enough students in middle and high schools, what we call doing mathematics, really engaged in communicating about mathematics, engaging in problem solving, persisting through complex situations, the kinds of things we would expect to see out of STEM majors, people moving into STEM careers, also just generally successful through their schooling. And so we had a first cohort of fellows this past year, 19 representing 17 counties from across the state. We're about to select the second cohort, and all told, we're going to have at least 40 fellows supported through this program over the next 5 years. And what we hope is that this becomes the starting point of what teacher leadership could look like in this state, and what improving instruction could look like in this state.
This is gosh, this is so exciting. I'm glad to hear that glad to hear that there's, already some growth, and that you're going to be growing that number of fellows even in the second year. In the world of academic funding, that's very impressive.
And thanks. So, we're very fortunate. Yeah.
So from what I understand, about 38% of West Virginia grade 7 through 11 mathematics classrooms are led by someone who is not certified to teach that class. I know that statistic is well communicated, and I am curious to know how this program can specifically help to lower that percentage over time.
Yeah, and that's a complicated statistic for a couple of reasons. One is a shift to thinking about who's properly certified to teach a class. So in some cases, we might think about someone who's not at all certified to teach. They are on some sort of emergency or temporary certification to teach anything. There's also people in that mix who are maybe certified to teach middle grades math, but they're teaching a lower level high school course. So technically they're part of that 38%. The other thing is these statistics get old pretty quickly. So that particular statistic may have even preceded multiple labor actions in this state amongst teachers, as well as the ramifications of the past year plus with COVID, where unfortunately we are seeing people leaving the profession. So it may be higher than that at some point, but regardless, we do have a situation where we need more certified and, more importantly, well-prepared and well-supported people teaching, not just in math and science, but across the board. And often the focus is on how do we get new people into the profession. But what I think the M3T project focuses on is how do we get the people we have to stay. If we address the retention issues and the attrition issues in our teaching force, we'd actually be in pretty good shape when it comes to the vacancies or under-certified positions that we see in growing numbers. So our philosophy is that to do that, oftentimes people will talk about teacher salary or other factors, but really when people make a decision to go into education, they just want to be happy with their job. They want to feel like they're having an impact, and they want to feel well supported to do that job. And maybe they want to imagine ways to advance their career that doesn't necessarily have them leaving the classroom, say becoming a principal or moving into higher education. So a vision for teacher leadership and teacher support can help address those goals. Our hope would be that through this project and through the people we support, that we can position these 40 people as leaders in ways that take some of our best teachers across the state and get them to stay, get them recognized as leaders in their profession, whether in their school, their district, or across the state, that they will have a touch on other teachers in their school or district to improve and support teaching across the board, which would help those teachers, and would just in general build a climate where teachers' voices are recognized, appreciated, and valued in ways that we believe would really help retain the teachers we have instead of just focusing on how to get more people into the profession.
Absolutely. I am very proudly from a family of many educators, and our conversations at the dinner table have always been very similar to that, about the motivation to do just that, to continue to stay in the classroom, but continue to also be challenged and want to find new ways to serve the children who are learning. So I'm very grateful to know, and I speak on behalf of many in saying that we're grateful to know that there are people out there like you all who are thinking about this and pushing our state and our communities forward in a way that hopefully will create a much brighter future for educators and for the citizens of West Virginia. So I want to switch gears a bit to ask John some questions. John, I know that your research and expertise is very interesting and something that you have put into practice in several places, including the University of Arkansas. And so I'd love for you to talk to us tonight about some of your work and some of the findings that you've discovered related to how we can more effectively serve and retain students of all levels in STEM in general.
Well, thank you. I'm oddly both a consumer of the work of the center and contribute. I'd like to give you some idea of some of the synergies that happen. A lot of my time goes in being the instructional lead of Physics 112, which is a large service class, had 240 students last semester. Virtually all of them were either engineers or scientists. And I had personal experience of the value of excellent high school STEM education. And so what we do is we've tried to study what factors influence them either getting a degree, which is goal number one. We'd like everybody who comes to WVU to get a degree, but also we're STEM people. We're physicists and mathematicians. We'd like them to get a degree in STEM. And what additional factors influence that? And then we also are West Virginians, and we have a large set of students who grow up going to rural high schools, and we have a relatively large population of first-generation students. And all of these have played into some roles with the center. So some research that we funded in a grant a few years ago with a different mathematician led us to studying factors influencing retention, and those factors became the research backbone of a large project that SCAE leading to develop a network across the state, which called the first two Includes Alliance Network. And basically we see just clearly, starkly, the crucial role of excellent high school preparation, the access to college preparatory coursework, particularly AP courses, and we actually, this is something I didn't know a week ago, see the difference between those factors influencing either staying in college, just being a successful high school student, getting a good grades, getting your high school GPA is high, compared to staying in the sciences. And there, the most crucial factor is not that, but it is the thing that we're all working on, getting the students to college with a high school background that lets them take calculus their first semester, which we call that being math ready. And if an engineering student is math ready, they can get out with a degree in 4 years. It gets very much harder if they're having to take additional classes. So, that kind of that synergy where research we're doing in the physics classes then forms a backbone for a project that then works at the interface between in both institutions of higher ed across the state and in getting the crucial decision to actually come to college, to getting students who are, who would benefit from college education, which I like college education, to get them to actually come to the institution. And West Virginia University is exceptionally well placed to look at that. We're a large college. We draw many students from from all West Virginia counties. So it is really that finding out how to get those students in the path through college that lets all students be successful. We keep talking about that. And that kind of synergy where some work being done in either physics or math in terms of research then leads into a large project has fed into some of the other things the center is doing. For instance, Matt and I have a grant to provide scholarships for future STEM teachers. And this has also led to a large grant to provide scholarships for physics students who are just want to go out and do computer science. And this was funded partially because of the Code WV initiative, because we can then use the Code WV to interest those students to come to the institution. And both those scholarship grants provide $1 million worth of funding to students at West Virginia University. So it is really give me students who are taught by excellent teachers, and they will be more successful.
Wow. That you all just keep continuing to share more great work by this center. And so I have a couple more questions for you three, but before I move on, I want to remind the audience that if you have any questions for our three guests, please continue to submit those. And here in a few minutes, I will start asking them questions from the audience. So in the meantime, I'd like to talk for just a moment about WVU Teach. I know a bit about WVU Teach, being that it's a really awesome program and that it allows students the flexibility to still pursue their major while also still encouraging them to take some of the remaining open options to still become a math or science teacher. So can you tell us more about that program and what it entails for students here at WVU?
So first, I was really happy that I was going to get this question because it is easily my favorite STEM teacher preparation program, period. I've never seen one even close to this well designed. It's based on a model that was initially piloted at the University of Texas at Austin, and it allows a student basically to take one additional class a semester on average and continue on to get a Bachelor of Science in Physics or an engineering degree or computer science degree in the 4 years. And that 4 years is important because Promise scholarships last for 4 years. So a student who has to continue an additional year in college begins to run out of money, and that's a big issue for many of my students. So the idea is most students who actually end up being math and science teachers didn't come to the university thinking they were going to do that. And so the program starts out with a couple 1 credit hour courses that allow students to experience teaching in the elementary and middle school level, and to make the decision whether this is something that they are going to be passionate about. Is this a possibility for them, or is this something they really don't like? And then, that's off the table. We'll go to something else. And then, it gives them teacher preparation that is very much integrated with their the way they think. I mean, STEM folks don't think all that much, maybe like some of the other disciplines. We have different. We think different than political science, maybe. They're both valid, but if you have a teacher preparation course directed to political science students, you might very well turn off engineering students. And so it's very integrated. It's much less course heavy than many other teacher preparation programs because the topics are very carefully picked and placed. And so it is, produces a license, which we're hoping that they will stay in West Virginia, stay close to home. But it's just you get a real teaching license in 4 years, which is incredible. And they do a full semester of student teaching, so they have that full student teaching experience last semester. And it produces fantastic teachers that stay in the classroom. As one of their biggest outcomes is that WTeach students keep teaching. So this teacher attrition we worry about generally is not a problem for students who go through this program, which is because it takes a while to develop skill as a teacher. You don't walk in your first day and be that highly skilled teacher. It's something that experience does make you better at. And one of the things I do get to reflect on is, as I teach these students who were prepared by excellently prepared teachers, is that virtually every one of those 240 students sitting in my class was there because there was that teacher who motivated them to take this path. And if that teacher's not there, then they may not show up in my classroom. So I need those teachers to be there.
Yes. Thank you to all those teachers out there. Hopefully there's at least 1 or 2 of them who are listening tonight. So to make programs like these successful, several of the programs you've mentioned tonight, I know there's a significant amount of collaboration and partnership at the campus level and at the state level that you must have to engage in quite often. And so I'm wondering if you could talk to us briefly about how you kind of build and sustain these relationships to continue to advance the work of the center.
Well, yeah, I think that's very much the case. And one of the things I've learned is that it's not just, well, even if it's partnerships across campus, that can be complicated enough as it is, logistically and just sort of philosophically. But then when you start talking about the partnerships to develop with schools and districts, educators, policymakers, legislators, to really think about longstanding change, you're talking about something that's very complicated. But I think West Virginia as a state and West Virginia University as an institution are pretty uniquely positioned nationwide to see real change at an interesting scale. I think Gay mentioned the way in which there was this intersection between policies that emerged, what that would mean on the ground for schools and districts through our Department of Education, and the way that WVU could serve that in a really powerful way, in a way that WVU is pretty uniquely positioned to serve the state, both in research and in practice. Similarly, with M3T, there's a lot of interest across the state about teacher leadership. In fact, recent funding made available through the school funding formulas from the legislature to have districts be able to allocate funds in a way that they would come up with in this sort of line of teacher leadership. Now, what that leaves open is a big space, which is how will a school or district use those monies? And it's through partnerships, through both bringing something to the table and recognizing that other people do the same, where you start to build those relationships and start to be part of a discussion that can think, all right, yeah, the resources are there, the policies there, the opportunities there. How can we move this along in a good direction? And it's complicated to know that everyone brings those resources, everyone brings that expertise, everyone brings opinions, but so to navigate having those discussions in ways that satisfy everyone's goals and satisfy the shared goal, in this case of improving the experiences for our students, is really valuable. It's complicated, it's time intensive, but I think these projects serve as examples of how we're starting to make some really, get some interesting traction in that area.
Absolutely. And it's clear that there is very impactful work in action. So could you give us a preview maybe of what's on the horizon for the center? You know, where can you go and grow from here?
Well, we regularly work with some of our math and science faculty on campus who are writing research grants in their field to help connect them to a broader impact for their work, working through WVU our partnerships with the schools. And we've got some really cool lessons under development that will help students understand what science is and while addressing state standards. We've been working on some new degree pathways with our colleagues in both Eberly and the College of Education and Human Services to maybe take some of those kids who don't want to be that AP math teacher, but would be an excellent middle school math teacher, and find them a natural way into the classroom, because those classes are so crucial for that transition. And sneak peek, starting this summer, we'd been working with faculty on the Beckley campus to create a researcher practitioner partnership that includes computer science faculty, STEM education faculty, and middle school teachers and administrators from the Raleigh County schools. And it's around integrating computer science into that new middle school class that's supposed to teach you about all the career options. So while you're learning about the 16 career clusters, which some people say are a little outdated, we're going to show you how computer science connects to all of those, so that guidance counselors no longer think computer science is just this thing you take if you're going to go to college. They see why all their students belong in that classroom. And West Virginia Department of Education is also a partner in that. And so the hope is we come up with something fantastic for West Virginia classrooms, and they can share it with other districts. Those are a few.
Well, thank you for sharing that with us. And thank you for this just incredible overview of the work that you do. I know in addition to some of your other roles at WVU. So we're going to transition into giving you some questions from the audience. And our first question for you tonight is about the WTeach program. And that question is it too late for a student to get involved in WVU if they're already an upperclassman?
It depends. Depends on how much of an upperclassman they are. So I think we've accommodated folks who are who have just begun their junior year, but it's really hard to get the 6 or 7 classes in WTeach in and to complete a STEM degree, because there's a lot of stuff involved in becoming a chemist or a physicist or a mathematician. So it's possible they should talk with an advisor in the WTeach program, and we'll work with them as much as we can. But it is possible. Deciding earlier is better, though.
But that scholarship that John mentioned that he and Matt are part of, that if a student did have to add an extra year, if they try teaching out and they love it, we can help pay for that extra year.
And these are substantial scholarships for the students out there. It's $14,500 a year, and it does come with a commitment to teach. But one of the purposes of scholarship was providing that bridge funding for a 5th year after your promised scholarship does run out.
Wow, thank you. Our next question, what role does increased broadband access play in bringing STEM education opportunities to our communities in West Virginia?
Well, certainly this year it was, I cannot tell you with 240 students how many internet-related challenges my students had. So I hope we're done with this. But in general, the broadband, the internet is the library now. So not having access to high quality internet is like not having access to a library 20 years ago. So it's crucial.
And for our teachers in our professional development, even when COVID is over, some of our teachers, asking them to drive 3 hours after a school day, it'd be so much easier if they could just hop online. And we have teachers that have to, go into the school to get good enough computer access to be able to, actually interact with us. We're trying to do is we have as many, offline computer science activities as we can, but sometimes you just need to be able to talk to the teachers, and it's an issue even with our teachers.
And I would expect going forward that our experience with COVID is going to accelerate the amount of online access you need, because more of these activities will be provided virtually because we learned how to do it. So now that's not a substitute for being able to touch physics equipment in person. So I'm really looking forward to having students do.
So our next question from the audience for you: what is the biggest recent breakthrough related to STEM education here in West Virginia?
Breakthrough. It's the code WVU. It's just the realization across the state of not only the importance of computer science, but the fact that computer science could be the gateway for many more students into other STEM disciplines. Because you think about it, it's hard. We can make physics fun for elementary school students, but you don't really begin to develop an understanding of physics until you have some mathematics. But you can code in 4th grade and build real stuff and just develop that love of creating and finding things out. And then we'll teach you physics when you get a little farther down the line. Oh, and another thing I need to point out, because Gabe brought it up, but middle school is crucial, parents. The decisions made in middle school really shape the career of future engineers and scientists.
That's very valuable. So our next question is about the M3T program. What have been some of the biggest obstacles you face as you scale up M3T?
Yeah, that's a great question. Seemingly lots of things over this past year because we've started this project just in the heart of COVID. And so, yes, I'll double down on that comment that we rely on virtual communication as we build a statewide network. And so it's important that we be able to do that. I think it's a relatable enough idea, what we're talking about, but it's nuanced in a way that's sometimes hard to communicate and hard to break through the ways in which schools and districts are typically set up for good reason, or their normal way of doing business. So we're talking to people constantly about seemingly mundane things, right? It's not bringing computer science into a school or into a classroom. It's just talking about how teachers can work differently with each other to improve their practice. And just communicating that idea with schools and districts that have their way of doing things, the way they understand the sort of what people do and who they are and what for. That's been a big obstacle, but one that we really grapple with and have had some success with. And I do want to mention too, part of the success is that through this project, we've partnered with the West Virginia Department of Education. And in addition to the NSF funding, they are both a conceptual partner as well as a financial partner in the work that has allowed us to really maximize the impact of the funding we have, but also have that traction and leverage to work with districts and say, this is in partnership with the Department of Education, and that's opened some doors, but still for them that opportunity to try to hammer out some of the details. And I'm really proud of our work from what we've been able to do over the past year, this year of all years furthermore, and we have 5 more years of this grant, so I'm excited about where we're going to go.
We are too. So our last audience question for you tonight: what advice do you have for an aspiring STEM teacher? You are all welcome to answer this if you'd like.
So on this campus, try our Step 1 WTeach class as soon as possible. And then we will get the nice thing about WTeach is it is a community. We have a set of master teachers, people who have classroom experience, often decades of classroom experience, that help guide the students. So there are authentic role models there that can help you. And they're very accessible. You can just talk with them about the profession. But give teaching a try. If you're an aspiring STEM teacher, get out there and teach. Learn how to teach. And we give excellent training before we let you teach a class. Get out there and try it. And if that will give you the passion that you need to get through and to bring to your students.
Yeah, I would add that it looks different for everyone. So that aspiring STEM teacher could be an 18-year-old freshman here at WVU. It could be someone who's changing a career at 40 years old. What it looks like to enter into the profession could look very different. I think seeking out a pathway that supports you as much as possible into that career. There are growing numbers of options of varying speed and quality. But finding the one that supports you the best is what's going to set you up the best for your career. And then once you're in that career, realizing that those opportunities for professional development, which may kind of fall in your lap or you may have to seek out, really are things that end up being some of the more rewarding parts of your career and that allow you to sustain. I've been worried this past year as we've worked with people above and beyond everything they've dealt with over this past year, but the work of being part of a community getting to think about their own practice they've told us has been the most rewarding part, and I believe is going to help people stay in this profession, and they're the people we need to stay.
And the idea of community is key here. A teacher, an aspiring teacher, will need a community both of peers and of mentors to develop as a teacher. But we don't just throw you out the door when you graduate. We expect you to stay in contact, and we provide support once you're in the classroom, and we provide a network that you can communicate with and interact with. Hopefully, we're hoping it's forever, but it's supporting teachers is one of the finest pieces of the WTeach model once they're in the classroom.
Well, so before we say goodbye to you all, what is the best way for folks to stay in touch with you and with the center?
Well, I'm really fast on my email, but we also have Twitter accounts set up for each of our programs, and the STEM Center website has everybody's email address. So please reach out.
Yeah, and M3T specifically, we are also on Twitter, and you can visit our website and feel free to contact me with any questions.
And I'm the most memorable name out there at physics at WVU, as is Gay. So we are religiously reply to email. So fast, actually.
You're setting the bar very high for a quick response. So, well, thank you all for sharing this perspective with us tonight, and for everyone who has tuned in. Is there anything else you'd like to say before we say goodbye to you all and rapidly send you some emails to stay in touch?
It's been this is so important, and it's such an honor to be part of trying to help bring these solutions and the support to the wonderful teachers in West Virginia, and to bring more wonderful teachers into West Virginia where we need a few extras. And to be at an institution that really cares about supporting the state is very important.
If you want to impact thousands of lives positively, be a science or math teacher.
Yes.
And it was great to share all this here today and have this forum as well. So thank you, Meredith.
Well, absolutely. And, it is very clear that the work that you are doing is impacting the lives of folks, both in the classrooms here at WVU and in classrooms all around West Virginia. So thank you for the work that you're doing. Thank you for sharing that with us tonight. And hopefully this is the first of many conversations about the incredible progress that the center is experiencing.
Thank you, Meredith.
Thanks,
Meredith. Thank you.
Night.
As we conclude this episode of the WVU Alumni Webinar Series, we thank you so much for joining. We hope that you will stay in touch with the WVU Alumni Association and with the Center for Excellence in STEM Education at WVU. And we surely hope to see you here for many upcoming conversations. Have a great night, and let's go Mountaineers.